You ever look at the world's biggest challenges, climate change, economic instability, global pandemics, and just feel completely and utterly overwhelmed? It's like we're all trying to untangle this knot the size of a planet. Well, today we're going to dig into why that feeling is so universal, and we're going to look at a powerful new way to see these problems much, much more clearly. All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll get a real grip on what makes these problems so, well, wicked. Then we're going to see why our usual way of thinking is kind of stuck in 2D and how adding a whole new dimension could be the key. After that, we'll see how this works in the real world before, finally, looking at how it could help us map out some of the most important plans on Earth. So, first things first, we need to define the enemy, because the problems we're facing today, they aren't just hard. Nope, they belong to this special category that experts have a name for: wicked problems. So you gotta ask, right? What makes these issues so different from, say, solving a math problem or fixing a car engine? The answer, it turns out, is in their very DNA. These are not simple puzzles just waiting for some single clever solution to come along. They're called wicked problems. And a wicked problem is one where even defining the problem is part of the problem. I mean, think about something like global poverty. Where does that problem actually begin and end? The requirements for any solution are usually in conflict with each other, and there's no way to know for sure if you've even solved it. And if you look at these characteristics, they perfectly describe the challenges that are all over the news. There is no final, neat formula for geopolitical stability. There's no clear finish line for managing a global supply chain. And every time you try to fix one piece of the climate crisis, you create these ripple effects everywhere else. It's all just one big, tangled web. Okay, so if our problems are these incredibly complex, multi-layered webs, why are we still trying to draw them with tools that were designed for straight lines? This is where we just slam into a brick wall. Our go-to methods, lists, spreadsheets, even the standard mind maps we all use, they're fundamentally two-dimensional. They're awesome for organizing a simple hierarchy or a process flow, but they completely fall apart when you need to show how everything is connected to everything else, all at the same time. Here's a great way to think about it. Using a 2D tool to solve a wicked problem, it's like using one of those flat paper maps to plan a flight around the world. Yeah, it's useful, but it fundamentally distorts reality. You can't see the true relationships. What we really need is a globe, a model that lets us see the entire system from every single angle. Which, of course, brings us to a potential solution. If our flat two-dimensional thinking is holding us back, then maybe, just maybe, the answer is to add a whole new dimension. And this is where this idea of 3D spatial thinking comes into play. There are tools emerging now, like this one called ThoughtSpace, that are literally designed to lift our thinking off the flat page. So instead of a mind map that just branches out, the whole concept is to organize ideas on the surface of spheres. The whole approach uses a pretty simple vocabulary. You've got your single ideas, or thoughts, which get placed on a 3D sphere. Then you can draw connections between them and even create these guided journeys to walk someone through this complex web of information. It's like building a language for how to navigate chaos. And this is the absolute game changer. A traditional mind map always has a center, right? Which subtly forces you into one single hierarchical way of looking at things. But a sphere has no center. You can spin it around, you can zoom in anywhere, and see the relationships from an infinite number of viewpoints. You totally escape the tyranny of a single perspective. Now, this all sounds pretty cool in theory, but what does it actually mean in practice? Let's take a look at how this new dimension of thinking is being used to create some serious real-world value. For any organization, thinking in 3D isn't just some academic exercise. It translates directly to the bottom line. When you can collaborate in real time in a shared 3D space, you cut down on friction and make decisions way faster. Being able to see these new, unexpected relationships, that speeds up innovation. And clarifying complex project dependencies visually, that prevents incredibly costly mistakes down the line. So it's really no surprise then that this approach is a perfect fit for the very organizations that are on the front lines, tackling these wicked problems every single day. We're talking about global policy groups, the biggest consulting firms, development banks, organizations whose entire job is to make sense of overwhelming complexity. And just to be clear, this isn't some tiny niche interest. The market for tools that help us think and organize information is massive, and it's growing. Any tool that offers a genuine edge in creating clarity and collaboration is tapping into a multi-billion-dollar need. So, this all leads us to the final boss level, the ultimate application. What happens when we take this powerful new way of seeing the world and point it directly at humanity's biggest challenges? And honestly, you can't find a more wicked problem than the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Those 17 SDGs, that's not a simple to-do list. It is a deeply interconnected system of global ambitions. This is where thinking in 3D becomes absolutely essential. It allows teams all over the world to finally see, in a clear, interactive way, how progress on zero hunger is directly connected to climate action and gender equality and clean water. It creates a shared map for a problem that involves every single person on the planet. At the end of the day, we can't solve these problems with longer to-do lists or more complicated spreadsheets. It's just not going to work. We need a totally new kind of framework, one that takes the chaos of a million interconnected pieces and transforms it into shared, actionable clarity. Which leaves us with this one last thought. For centuries, maybe our biggest barrier was that we just couldn't fully grasp the complex systems we're a part of. But now, with new tools and new ways of thinking, we're getting a clearer picture than ever before. So if we can finally, truly see the whole problem, the question isn't what do we do anymore? The question is, do we have the will to do it?